Raw action is the single greatest weapon you have, yet it's the weapon most people never use. People think life changes when they feel ready, when they gather confidence, when they understand everything perfectly, or when the circumstances line up in their favor. But that is the illusion that keeps millions stuck in the same place for years. The truth is simple. Nothing changes until you move. The universe does not respond to thoughts. It does not respond to dreams. It does not respond to fear. It responds to motion. The second you take action, raw, unpolished, imperfect, immediate action, everything around you begins to shift. You start generating momentum, and momentum is the one thing weak people can't compete with. Most people sit around thinking themselves into paralysis. They overanalyze every possibility, every risk, every detail, until they convince themselves that doing nothing is safer than trying. But action is the only antidote to fear. Fear grows when you wait. Fear multiplies when you sit still. Fear becomes a monster when you feed it with hesitation. The moment you act, the monster dies, because action forces your brain to deal with reality instead of imagination. You stop worrying about what might happen and start focusing on what is happening. And that shift alone can transform your life faster than any plan or strategy. Raw action doesn't mean you know what you're doing. It means you move even when you don't. Every champion you admire, every successful person you study, every leader you listen to, they all began before they were ready. They weren't smarter. They weren't braver. They weren't chosen. They were simply willing to do what everyone else avoided. They showed up, they took risks, they made mistakes, they learned, and they improved. Action revealed the path. Action created clarity. Action created skill. Action created strength. You're not supposed to know the whole map. You're supposed to start walking. People say, "What if I fail?" As if failure is a final destination. Failure is data. Failure is direction. Failure is feedback. You fail, you adjust, you evolve, and you move again. The only real failure is refusing to start. Action teaches you more in one day than contemplation teaches you in 1 year. You become wiser, sharper, and more capable every time you act. You discover weaknesses you didn't know you had and strengths you didn't know were inside you. You uncover solutions that were invisible when you were just sitting still. The world reveals itself to people who move, and here's the deeper truth: life rewards the bold. When you act, you disrupt your old patterns. You break the identity that kept you small. You send a message to your mind that you are done being passive, done being a spectator, done waiting for miracles. Action tells your subconscious that you are a person who creates outcomes, not a person who waits for them. And once your brain accepts that identity, everything changes. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop dragging your feet. You stop waiting for permission. You start chasing challenges. You start building discipline. You start seeing opportunities where before you only saw obstacles. When you take raw action, the world responds because people can feel movement. They can feel energy. They can feel momentum. Doors open that weren't open before. People take you seriously because you take yourself seriously. You start attracting situations and opportunities that never existed when you were stuck in hesitation mode. Movement is magnetic. Ambition is magnetic. Consistent action transforms you into a force that people cannot ignore. And you need to understand this: the people who win are not always the most talented or the most prepared. They are simply the ones who started. They are the ones who dared to take the first step while everyone else waited. They are the ones who acted despite fear, discomfort, and uncertainty. Raw action is the great equalizer. It allows the person with less resources, less knowledge, and less confidence to outperform the person with more advantages who refuses to move. Every step you take in the direction of your goals rewires your mind. Every small win builds confidence. Every bit of progress builds momentum, and momentum is the real power that changes lives. Once you start, even if you're slow, even if you're unpolished, even if you're unsure, you begin building a force that becomes harder and harder to stop. Raw action is not just the beginning of change. It is the engine that drives everything that follows. Discipline is not something you wait to feel. Discipline is something you build, something you forge, something you become through repetition, pressure, and a refusal to negotiate with your own weakness. Most people think discipline is about motivation or inspiration, but that's the biggest lie they tell themselves. Motivation is temporary. Feelings are unstable. Inspiration fades the moment life becomes uncomfortable. Discipline is the one thing that remains when everything else fails. Discipline is the force that drags you out of bed when your body wants comfort. Discipline is the voice that says, do it anyway. When your mind is begging for the easy path, when you build discipline, you become dangerous because you no longer depend on emotions to take action. You no longer wait for the perfect moment. You no longer rely on external validation to push forward. You operate from decision, not desire. You act from commitment, not convenience. You become a person who does the hard things even when nobody is watching, even when nobody claps, even when nobody understands what you're trying to build. Discipline transforms you into a machine that keeps moving forward no matter what tries to stop you. But discipline isn't built in grand moments. It's built in the small, invisible choices. It's built when you say no to laziness for the 100th time. It's built when you push through the last set at the gym, even though your muscles are screaming. It's built when you turn off the distractions and put your mind on your goals. Every moment you choose effort over ease, you are training your mind to obey you. And that is real power. A disciplined man is a man who controls himself. And a man who controls himself can control his destiny. Look around you. The world is filled with people who want results, but refuse to build the discipline required to earn them. They wait for motivation to magically appear. They say things like, I'll start tomorrow, or I'll get serious when things calm down, or I'm just not feeling it today. And that mindset is exactly why they stay stuck. Discipline is the weapon that separates the ones who rise from the ones who rot. The disciplined few build empires, while the undisciplined majority build excuses. When you become disciplined, you become free. Most people think discipline restricts you, but the opposite is true. Discipline frees you from the prison of procrastination. Discipline frees you from the chains of inconsistency. Discipline frees you from the endless cycle of regret that comes from knowing you could be more but choosing not to be. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. Without it, your potential dies inside your mind. With it, your potential becomes reality. Discipline also rewires the way you see yourself. When you keep promises to yourself, your confidence grows. When you follow through on your commitments, your self-respect increases. You stop doubting your abilities because your actions prove your worth. You stop worrying about people's opinions because you know you're putting in the work every single day. Confidence doesn't come from compliments, it comes from discipline. It comes from doing the work repeatedly until the work becomes your identity, and discipline makes life easier in the long run. Not because life becomes less challenging, but because you become stronger. You handle stress better. You endure discomfort longer. You outwork competition without even realizing it. Discipline sharpens your mind like a blade. It trains your spirit to stay unbroken even under pressure. It gives you an edge that can't be bought, faked, or inherited. It must be earned through sweat, commitment, and sacrifice. Every day you practice discipline, you are casting a vote for the person you want to become. Every day you push the resistance, you grow a little more unstoppable. Eventually, the tasks that once felt impossible become effortless. The routines that once felt heavy become automatic. The obstacles that once intimidated you become irrelevant. That is the power of discipline. It doesn't just change what you do, it changes who you are. Prayer without action is nothing more than noise. People spend their whole lives asking for strength, asking for opportunity, asking for success, but they never move their feet toward the very things they're praying for. They think faith alone will pull them out of struggle, when in reality, faith is designed to fuel action, not replace it. Prayer is meant to sharpen your direction, not serve as a substitute for discipline. You can kneel for an hour and ask for a miracle, but the miracle won't arrive until you stand up and start working toward it. God helps the man who shows he's worthy of being helped, not the man who waits for divine rescue while doing nothing. When you pray, you're aligning yourself with a greater purpose, but when you act, you're proving that you're serious about that purpose. People misunderstand what prayer really is. Prayer is not begging. It is not pleading. It is not hoping something falls out of the sky. Prayer is communication. It is clarity. It is grounding your mind. It is reminding yourself who you want to become. But the world does not rearrange itself because you speak words. It rearranges itself because you back those words with force. Faith without effort is fantasy. Faith with effort is unstoppable. The problem is most people use prayer as an escape, not an empowerment. They pray because they're scared. They pray because they want relief. They pray because they're hoping someone else will intervene and remove the weight from their shoulders. But growth requires weight. Strength requires resistance. Character requires struggle. And action is the only proof that you're willing to carry that weight. If you truly believe in your prayer, you will act as if it is already answered. You will take steps that align with the outcome you say you want. You will behave like the person you asked God to help you become. Imagine asking for success and then living like a lazy person. Imagine asking for discipline, but waking up at noon every day. Imagine asking for greatness while making excuses. That is contradiction. That is self-sabotage. That is why so many prayers go unanswered. Not because God ignores them, but because the people praying never take the smallest step to demonstrate intention. You cannot ask for a blessing while living in a way that rejects it. You must build the foundation to hold what you're asking for. Action is that foundation. Prayer gives you direction, but action gives you progress. Prayer gives you strength, but action gives you transformation. Prayer gives you clarity, but action gives you results. If you want to change your life, you don't just pray for opportunities, you prepare for them. You don't just pray for discipline. You train your mind and body until discipline becomes your nature. You don't just pray for success. You stack enough action, consistency, effort, and sacrifice that success has no option but to collide with your path, and action makes prayer stronger. When you act, your prayers become more focused. You're no longer asking blindly, you're asking with purpose. You're asking with evidence. You're asking with momentum behind you. God sees you moving and He multiplies the path. Doors that were closed begin to open. People you need start showing up. Strength you didn't know you had rises inside you. That is what happens when you combine prayer and action. It creates a magnetism that pulls opportunities toward you because you're doing your part. You must understand that your life is a partnership. You bring the effort, God brings the expansion. You bring the discipline, God brings the breakthrough. You bring the motion, God brings the momentum. But nothing happens until you take the first step. The universe rewards intention backed by effort. It rewards the man who gets on his feet and takes responsibility for his destiny. When you act, you prove your belief. When you act, you demonstrate readiness. When you act, you show that you're not just hoping, you're committed. Pressure is not something you run from. Pressure is something you run toward. The world has lied to you by convincing you that pressure is dangerous, that stress is unhealthy. That difficulty is a sign you should pull back instead of push forward. But every strong man, every successful leader, every unstoppable force you admire was carved out of pressure, not comfort. Diamonds are created through pressure. Muscles grow through pressure. Character is formed through pressure. Without it, you remain soft, unfocused, untested, and unsure of who you truly are. But when life presses against you, that is the moment you discover your real identity. Most people crumble under pressure because they've never learned how to see it correctly. They treat pressure like a punishment instead of a privilege. When something becomes difficult, they break. When things don't go as planned, they quit. When the world becomes uncomfortable, they collapse and start looking for an escape. But pressure is not the enemy. Pressure is the signal that you are evolving. It is the indicator that you are stepping into territory you've never mastered before. If your life has no pressure, your life has no growth. And if your life has no growth, you stay exactly where you are year after year, watching others pass you. By understand this pressure creates identity. Without pressure, you have no idea who you really are. You only know who you are when everything around you feels heavy, when the world is pushing back, when the weight on your shoulders seems too much to carry. That is where the real version of you steps forward. Anyone can smile in comfort. Anyone can pretend to be motivated when life is easy. Anyone can talk big when nothing challenges them. But the moment discomfort arrives, the moment adversity hits, the moment pressure tightens around your life, the fake identity falls apart and the real identity appears. Pressure reveals truth. People who avoid pressure live small lives because they never confront the parts of themselves that need to grow. They never face their weaknesses. They never sharpen their strengths. They never unlock the toughness needed to build anything significant. But when you embrace pressure, you train your mind to stay calm in chaos. You train your spirit to stay unbroken under stress. You train your body to keep moving when everything in you wants to stop. Pressure is the gym for your character, and every rep you endure under that weight shapes you into someone stronger than you were yesterday. You must view pressure as the sculptor shaping your future self. Every difficult moment you endure is carving away the weak parts of your identity. Every stressful situation is polishing your resilience. Every challenge is chiseling discipline into your bones. Without pressure, you are unfinished. Pressure completes you. It pushes you beyond comfort, beyond fear, beyond excuses, and into the level of strength that your goals demand from you. And pressure doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you useful. A man who cannot handle pressure cannot lead. A man who cannot endure stress cannot build. A man who collapses under weight cannot carry responsibility. The world respects those who remain steady in storms. The world follows those who stay focused under fire. The world trusts those who do not break when life intensifies. You cannot rise without becoming the kind of person who can handle the altitude. And that strength is built through pressure. When pressure enters your life, it means life is preparing you for something bigger. The weight you feel is not meant to crush you. It is meant to expand your capacity. Every level of success comes with a new level of pressure, and if you try to avoid it, you avoid the very growth required to reach that next level. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you must learn to ask, "What is this building inside me?" Pressure is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that you are advancing. When people talk about discipline, most of them treat it like a punishment. They treat it like something heavy, something painful, something they have to drag behind them like a chain. But the truth is, discipline is not the chain. The lack of discipline is the chain. The lack of control, the lack of order, the lack of structure, that is what keeps people trapped in the same loop for years. And the sooner you understand this, the sooner you stop seeing discipline as a burden and start seeing it as a form of freedom. This is why Andrew Tate talks about discipline with so much intensity, because he knows that every man who ever achieved anything meaningful built his entire life on the foundation of consistent, brutal, unapologetic discipline. You wake up in the morning and immediately your brain starts negotiating. Stay in bed for 5 more minutes. Skip the workout. You worked hard yesterday. You'll start tomorrow. This is the kind of negotiation that makes people weak. This is the negotiation that ruins potential. And Tate always says, if you negotiate with yourself, you lose. Discipline is about removing that negotiation completely. It's about creating a non-negotiable standard for how you operate every single day, regardless of how you feel. Because feelings are unreliable. Motivation is temporary, but discipline is permanent if you choose for it to be. And in this keynote, the message is simple: raw action is fueled by discipline. And without discipline, even the best plans collapse. You can read every book on productivity. You can watch every motivational video. You can study every strategy. But none of it matters if you don't act consistently. Discipline is not about intensity for one day. It's about showing up with force every day, especially on the days you don't feel like it. That's the day discipline becomes meaningful. It's easy to work when life feels good. The real test comes when you're tired, when you're stressed, when you're discouraged, when nobody is watching. That is when discipline either builds you or breaks you. People think discipline removes freedom, when in reality, it gives you more freedom than anything else. When you discipline your mind, you free yourself from distraction. When you discipline your body, you free yourself from weakness. When you discipline your habits, you free yourself from chaos. Discipline becomes the engine that drives your life forward with force. And once that engine starts running, nothing can stop it, because nothing external controls you anymore. You become the one who dictates your path, your actions, your behavior. That is power. That is self-ownership. Andrew Tate often says that men today are addicted to comfort. They want easy victories, easy results, easy paths. They want the reward without the grind. But the world was never built for the comfortable. The world rewards the people who can suffer with purpose. Discipline is the art of choosing long-term glory over short-term pleasure. It is the ability to delay gratification, to endure discomfort, To sacrifice the present for a future version of yourself that is stronger, richer, smarter, more capable, more respected. And that future version does not appear magically. It is built. It is forged. It is crafted through discipline, and when you attach discipline to prayer, to purpose, to intentional action, it becomes unstoppable. There is a reason Tate talks about pairing faith with discipline. Prayer gives you direction. Discipline gives you movement. Prayer connects you with something higher. Discipline keeps you grounded in the actions needed to achieve what you're asking for. You pray for success, but you discipline yourself into becoming the type of man who can handle success. You pray for strength, but you discipline your daily habits into producing strength. You pray for a better life, but you discipline your actions until that better life becomes the only possible outcome. Discipline is the bridge between the life you dream about and the life you actually live. And the second you treat discipline like a privilege instead of a burden, everything shifts. You stop looking for shortcuts. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop relying on excuses. You start doing the work because you finally recognize that nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to push you. Nobody is going to build your life for you. The responsibility is yours, and discipline is the only tool powerful enough to help you build the life you want with absolute certainty. When people talk about taking action, most of them imagine a clean, organized, perfectly prepared moment where everything lines up and they suddenly feel ready. But that moment never comes. Life doesn't give you calm seas before it asks you to sail. Life throws storms at you and waits to see whether you will move anyway. That is why Andrew Tate keeps repeating the same message. Raw action solves everything, not perfect action. Not planned action, not comfortable action, raw action. Action taken in chaos, action taken in doubt. Action taken when you're scared, unprepared, unsure, exhausted, overwhelmed. That kind of action builds a different version of you, a version that no obstacle can intimidate. In this keynote, the message goes deeper than simple motivation. It's about understanding that every problem in your life becomes smaller the moment you start moving toward a solution. Fear shrinks when you attack it. Confusion clears when you take a step. Weakness fades when you push through it. Action is the universal antidote to stagnation. And most people stay stuck, not because they don't know what to do, but because they think about it too much. They analyze, they overthink, they wait for direction, they wait for signs. They wait for someone to tell them they're doing the right thing. But action doesn't need to be right to be valuable. Even the wrong action teaches you something. Even the failed attempt moves you forward mentally. The only truly wrong choice is to do nothing at all, and Tate emphasizes this because he understands how dangerous hesitation is. The moment you hesitate, doubt becomes stronger. The moment you wait, your mind starts generating excuses. The moment you pause, the world distracts you. He talks about building a mindset where action becomes your default response. Something goes wrong, you act. You feel lost, you act. You feel fear creeping in, you act. You don't waste time waiting for your emotions to align perfectly because emotions follow action. They don't lead it. You take the first step and then confidence shows up. You take the next step and clarity shows up. You keep moving and eventually momentum makes the process easier. There is power in being a person who moves before they feel ready. People who always wait for the perfect moment never achieve anything extraordinary. But people who take action and let the path reveal itself along the way end up discovering opportunities others never even see. And this is the kind of raw action Tate speaks about, an action that doesn't depend on approval, an action that doesn't require permission, an action that comes from internal fire, directed toward a purpose you've decided is worth fighting for. He connects this with prayer, because prayer without movement is just hope with no direction. You pray for guidance, and then you take action so that guidance has a place to appear. You pray for breakthroughs, but breakthroughs only show up for people moving toward them. Prayer aligns your intention, but action activates your reality. And when the two come together, when your faith and your effort are aligned, life has no option but to shift in your favor. Not instantly, not magically, but inevitably. Most people underestimate the compound power of small actions done consistently. They think change requires massive moves, dramatic decisions, huge sacrifices. But the truth is, change comes from doing the small things with massive discipline. You wake up early one day, nothing happens. You wake up early for a month, your identity changes. You work on your craft for 20 minutes today, nothing noticeable happens. You do it for 300 days, you become a different person. Raw action compounds faster than motivation ever will. It builds momentum, and momentum becomes a force that reshapes your life. And in this keynote, Tate wants you to understand that success doesn't belong to the smartest, the most talented, the most connected. Success belongs to the person who acts the most, the person who takes the most shots, the person who keeps moving even when the path is unclear. The world rewards velocity. It rewards resilience. It rewards the person who doesn't freeze when life gets messy, but instead uses that chaos as fuel to move even faster. Because the truth is, every goal you have is already possible for you, but possibility means nothing until you convert it into action. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need perfect planning. You just need the courage to start moving and the discipline to never stop once you begin. At the end of everything we've talked about, after every lesson on prayer, discipline, action, sacrifice, and self-ownership, the message becomes painfully simple. Your life is not waiting for the world to change. Your life is waiting for you to change. Every breakthrough you want is on the other side of effort you haven't applied yet. Every version of yourself you dream about already exists in a parallel line of decisions you refuse to make. You are not lacking in opportunity. You are not lacking in talent. You are not lacking in time. You are lacking in the willingness to take raw, relentless, uncomfortable action every single day until the universe has no choice but to open the doors you've been banging on. This entire message is a reminder that nobody is coming to rescue you. Nobody is going to hand you discipline. Nobody will drag you out of bed. Nobody will fix your problems for you. And nobody cares enough to feel your pain the way you feel it. That sounds harsh, but it's the most freeing truth in the world, because the moment you accept it, you stop waiting and start building. You stop complaining and start attacking. You stop hoping and start becoming. You stop being a spectator in your own life and step fully into the arena where your destiny is forged. When you combine prayer with discipline, you create direction. When you combine discipline with action, you create momentum. When you combine momentum with perseverance, you create results that people call luck, because they will never understand how many hours of invisible effort built your visible success. You didn't get here because you knew everything. You didn't get here because you felt ready. You got here because you moved, you acted. You refused to stay still. You turned your fear into fuel, your doubts into reminders, your failures into stepping stones. This is what a God mode mindset truly means. It means becoming a person who cannot be broken by inconvenience, distraction, judgment, or delay. A person who stays loyal to the mission even when motivation disappears. A person who prays not for an easier life, but for the strength to become stronger than every obstacle placed in their path. A person who realizes that success isn't an event, it's a lifestyle. It's a daily choice. It's a silent promise you make to yourself and then honor with action again and again. So as this speech comes to its final moment, the real question is no longer, can you do it? You already can. The real question is, will you do it? Will you take everything you've heard and turn it into action the moment this video ends? Will you stop hesitating and start building the life that keeps calling out to you? Will you finally step into the version of yourself that has been waiting behind years of excuses, fear, and wasted time? Because in the end, nothing changes until you move. Nothing shifts until you act. Nothing transforms until you commit with a level of intensity that forces the world to respond. This is your moment, your fight, your responsibility, your life. And no matter where you stand right now, no matter how heavy the weight feels, you are capable of more than you've ever allowed yourself to believe.